As promised, in this lesson, we're going to talk about CIDR. CIDR stands for Classless Interdomain Routing, and we're going to start with an example right away. So we're going to use a Class B address from the previous lesson, and what we're going to do is we're just going to change its mask. First, let's go through this example. So this is a Class B address 155.8.101.33/16. So /16 means that the first 16 bits of this IP address represent the network portion. So if we have 16 bits, that's 2 times 8, that's exactly 2 octets. Now to get the network address in this example, we're going to copy the network portion, and then in the host portion, we're going to put all zeros. And that's how we got 155.8.0.0. The broadcast address is just the opposite, so we copy the network portion, and then in the host portion, we put ones, and we get 155.8.255.255. At the end, we have a range of useful or usable IP addresses. This means that all of these addresses can be allocated to endpoints, to computers, to any device that's within this network. So the only 2 IP addresses that we actually cannot use in a range are these 2, the network address and the broadcast address. All right, now let's look at what happens when we change the mask. So here we had /16, and now we're going to use /21. Now we can't really separate the network portion and the host portion that easily. So these 2 octets are going to be the network portion, but then we're going to have some bits in the 3rd octet that are also going to represent the network portion. And then the other half, or in this case, not the half, but the other, so we're going to have 11 bits in the host portion, so the other 11 bits are going to be the host portion. So for this example, we're going to need to write these numbers or this IP address in the binary format. Now it's a bit easier to distinguish the network portion from the host portion. So we're going to look at the first 21 bits. So this is 8 bits plus 8 bits, that's 16. And then we got 5 bits until here, and that's 21 bits. So the first 21 bits are going to be the network portion, and the rest is going to be the host portion. Now that we've got that figured out, how do we determine the network address and the broadcast address? So to determine the network address, we need to copy the network portion. So we're going to copy all 21 bits from the beginning of the IP address. Those are the bold numbers. And in the host portion, we're going to switch all the bits from the IP address to zeros. So this is the network portion. We're going to copy the first octet, which is 155, that hasn't changed. And then we're going to copy the second octet, which is 8, and that hasn't changed either. But the 3rd octet has changed. So in the 3rd octet, we had 101 at the end. And this 1 has a value of 1. This next bit has a value of 2, but that's switched off, so we don't count that. And then the next bit to the left is 4, and that's turned on, so we do count that, and that's 5 in total. So we need to calculate 101 minus 5, and that's going to be 96. Or you can add these 2 values, these 2 ones, which are 64 and 32. Either way, you get 96. And then in the fourth octet, we're going to have all zeros, and that's easy. That's just 0 in the decimal format as well. Now let's look at the broadcast address. So for the broadcast address, we're going to copy the network portion, and that's going to be 155 and 8 for the first two octets. That doesn't change. But then the third octet changes because we're going to put ones in the entire host portion. And that's going to be 103 when we add all of these up. And the fourth octet is going to be 255 because we have 8 ones in the binary format, which is 255 in the decimal format. Now to determine the range, we're just going to go from the next address from the network address and all the way up to the one address that comes before the broadcast address. So the range is going to be from 155.8.96.1 to 155.8.103.254. All right, hopefully that clears up CIDR. We're going to do more examples later, but now we need to cover one more thing. So it's super easy to write a mask like this, but actually when you configure a router or a switch or some servers, you can't really use this format while configuring. So a mask can actually be written the same way as an IP address. 21 equals to 21 ones and 11 zeros. And the way you would write that or type that in when configuring a router would actually be like this. You would translate the binary numbers into decimal values, and that would look like this. So we have 8 ones, which is 255, and then another batch of ones, which is also 255. And then we have 5 ones, and when you add all of those values, that's going to be 248. And then you have 8 zeros, which is going to be 0. So this is what configuring an IP address with /21 mask would look like on, for example, a Cisco router. All right, that will be it regarding CIDR. As I said, we're going to practice some more, so don't worry, just continue to next lessons and hopefully things will start clearing up.